hopefully this angle works. I have never done a top-down view video before, but that didn't happen. I just finished this journal. I definitely didn't just hit my tripod. Last page, still have to put in the photo of myself on the last page. But because that is done, I now can start this journal. It's from the Moleskine Van Gogh Museum collection. I'm not entirely sure if this is still available because I picked it up when it went on clearance on their website because I didn't want to pay full price, but it was worth it on sale. It is very pretty. It's the irises one. I believe they have one that's the I think it's like lilies in a pot, but these are the Van Gogh irises. So I wanted to film at least a little intro of this before I go to bed because it's quite late right now and figure out the angle and stuff. But yeah, I'm gonna take you along while I start this new journal because it's always very fun when I get to do that. For warning, you will see the angle change ever so slightly at least like 12 times in this video. Tripods are hard and I don't know what I'm doing. This is what the inside looks like. It has this super cool design in the front. That's not the page I meant to flip to. And a quote from Van Gogh and some stuff about it. And I think the back is honestly even prettier than the front couple pages are. It does have a pocket in the back. It has an elastic band around it. It is not quite an A5 size. It is 5 by 8 1/4 inches or 13 by 21 centimeters. So like, if I remember, my memory serves me right, an A5 is like 5, I think it's like 5.5 by 8.5, or it's like 5 by 8. So it's slightly not that, like for comparison. Journal I just finished is an A5 and it is slightly wider and slightly shorter than this one is. So it's 240 pages and I do not see here what GSM it is, but it's not super thick. It's probably 120 to 160. It's definitely not like 180 GSM or anything. So I'm getting this information with this little, I think it's the almond blossom ones, and there's sunflower stuff, which I will be junk journaling with this at some point and using this. I think all I'm going to do tonight is just get the design on the cover, which I have some fun little things I prepared in advance, where I will glue these on, and then off screen I'll probably put some kind of like packing or clear tape over top to make it waterproof. We'll need it later, but it's not right now, you know? I kind of chose this notebook because A, I really like Vincent van Gogh, and also it is lined paper. I know there's a lot of people who really like dot grids, but I find for this type of journaling I really prefer lined. It just works the best for me because I use my journals as like, or at least this type of journal as kind of like an everything journal deal. Like I put media reviews, I have just plain writing on there, everything around that and in between. And also I do not know if I'll be able to get this on camera right now, but it is a like fabric linen cover. It's not like a pleather or anything. So this isn't quite going to stick, which is why I'll do tape over top, but I kind of just don't feel like dealing with taping everything individually and then putting it on here. And I should mention that this little sticker thingy that I'm going to put my name on is from, you get like a set of 3 of these with the Paperage journals, and I believe there's another brand that does it as well, which is the old journal I had and also my current sketchbook I got from there, so I have a couple spares of these that I will continue to use. My kind of process for doing my collages with stuff like this is kind of just put it on there. I don't really know how to explain much how I do it because I do arts and collage stuff in general. Okay, that is kind of gauging where it would be best suited, and sometimes you try out like 3 different positions and you end up liking basically the first one you did anyways. So let me look to see if I can have some of these. And for the images I have printed out, I literally put them in a Google Doc and then cut them out. These 2 that I made, I cut out frame PNGs and then put the mini images. It was a lot of like fiddling in the document. Some of these I'm like using for things, so let's just grab a handful. That'll come into play later. Yeah, it's a lot of like various stuff. A lot of these ones I like cut up from a magazine. That's Jennifer's body. I don't know what she's doing here. Some of these I've had for a while and haven't used. The globe could be cool, but still not quite the vibe. I feasibly should have something that works, but I might just be too tired to figure that out right now. So, because I'm always very picky about what goes on the cover because I have to stare at it for so long that I don't want to stare at it if I'm not happy with it, you know? Like, I'll take some issues, but like, it gets to a point, you know? We're gonna do that, and I'm gonna shove these off to the side and not think about them right now, because I'm lazy and I don't want to. Fiddling with some of these images on a like linen fabric cover is kind of interesting. Don't know if it's interesting in a good way or interesting in a bad way, but these are upside down. I can't do that. And I also tend to do this with most stuff I glue in, where I just take Elmer's glue stick is what I've been using recently. And I go around all of the edges to help all of the edges stick down in particular, because that is what tends to lift up with a lot of these smaller images, and to prevent that, I just kind of... I'll also do the edges of these little labels because they don't tend to stick very well. That's a bit of an issue. Here comes the worst part, which I think I will do with marker and outline. A lot of what I'll be using are the Zebra Mildliners. You can see that. The Crayola Colors of the World set and the Zebra Sarasa Vintage set, I believe is what that's called, with the like muted jewel toned colors. This is always so nerve-wracking. I always end up like overthinking how I write my name, especially on the cover. I think it takes away... I was so terrified I wouldn't be able to fit it there. It takes away the pressure from like the nameplate page on the inside, but it creates a whole new pressure when you're doing it on the cover. And I have actually never done colorful labels on the cover yet, which this is only my like 3rd journal as I've been like journaling. Which I do plan on doing journal tours, but I don't know when those will come out, quite honestly. Yeah, I don't know when those will come out, if ever, just because, like, I'm a little busy, and, like, I'm filming this because there's not many other times I can film this, because I can only do it once, and those I tend to put off a lot longer. So part of why I love these zebra vintage set so much is in part because of this mustard yellow pen. Apologies if you cannot see what I'm doing, because that's the nature of writing words on paper. Either you can see what I'm doing, or I can see what I'm doing, and with this being the cover, I'd prefer it to be me. I think for these little sparkle bits, I'm just gonna outline some of them, but not all of them, you know? Because I just don't want to deal with the pressure of that. Also, if it bothers you that I'm not outlining everything in like a reasonable order, tough luck, my brain doesn't work like that. I get very distracted very easily. It's why I need journaling to function. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. It does. It's slightly not in frame, but you live and you learn. So, that's the cover. Oh. And that also marks the transition into the voiceover portion of this video. I'm back now to talk about the first couple pages I'm doing in this journal. I usually like to start with some kind of an about me page, and on like the very, very first weird page where the binding is like super close, I tend to put a photo of what I look like at the beginning of when I start the journal, and then at the very end when I'm done, I'll put in another photo of myself, because my journals tend to take usually a little over a year for me to get through, so it's fun to kind of look back on what I was like at the very beginning of a journal, and I imagine it'll only get more interesting the more journals I go through. This is my third fully finished like journal that like I have been like journaling in as like an active hobby, and not just written on random scraps here and there when I was going crazy. For the beginning of this one, I really wanted to use a bunch of the like design collaging stuff I've been doing and like did a lot more frequently in the journal right before this one. Both of these pages were inspired by two front pages I saw on Pinterest, where you can see the like full body drawing of yourself with like the facts, and then the other one, which you'll see later, is kind of the same thing but adding some of my baby photos or like child photos of me because I think it's cute. The drawing you see on the left side there, I did not do that myself. It's from a pit crew, which if you're unfamiliar, you should become familiar because it's a very fun website. It's a lot like those old dress-up games from when I was back as a youth, where you can make yourself or little characters, but it's all done by like individual artists who create them. This specific pit crew I used is by Soda Punk, but the U in punk is replaced with a V. Pit Crew's website has a like top used pit crews or whatever, and this is usually lingering in the top like first page of them. So you'll see it when you go on the website and see the art style kind of a thing. You can also see that I'm pulling out these little like bead letters from like friendship bracelets and stuff. I found a couple people who had like made them downloadable images on like Pinterest and stuff, so I I decided to cut them out and use them as the header for this, like the right page specifically, because I think it's really cute and nostalgic, and I am a sucker for a well-edited PNG that I can cut out and then put in my journal. I should probably mention, if you're curious about the images used and stuff, if they're not things that I took myself, almost all of them, I think, are off of Pinterest. Like, obviously the photos of me as a little baby child, are just, like, stuff I had lingering around on my phone, but, like, the background with the yellow tulips and stuff, that's all from Pinterest. To give a little peek behind the curtain, I've used this journal for a little bit longer now, since I recorded this. This is a chonker of a video by my standards for editing, so it took me a bit to get around to the point where I was doing the voiceover. And with this journal, it's from Moleskine. I think I mentioned that in the earlier portion. But one of the noticeable issues with it is that there is a lot of ghosting. It didn't say what GSM it was, but if you were curious about that with these notebooks, I would say it probably applies to a lot of the other standard ones as well from Moleskine, not just the Van Gogh collection. There was a lot of ghosting, and with pens that I normally don't have bleed through with, I was getting some bleed through. Nothing too terrible. Like, obviously, like, Sharpies bled through like crazy when I would use them later on, not in these spreads. But just, like, something to keep in mind if you were interested in these Moleskine notebooks. I will say the paper is a very pretty cream color that I am enjoying a lot working with, especially with this first spread with all the yellow and warm tones. I just felt like the cream color complemented it really nicely. And the actual, like, lines for my notebook, which words are hard. It's more like a college rule as opposed to a wide rule, which is what I was working with beforehand. And I enjoyed that a lot because it means I can fit a lot more of my thoughts onto pages. Especially in, like, as you can see, I'm starting to write the about me. I had so much, like, the profile section, I had so much more room than I would have had in my previous notebook. As I am writing out more of the, like, information of the About Me section, you can kind of see I'm doing this all capitals for the, like, subsections and using the fine tip of a zebra Mildliner to do that little dotted box, which has kind of become my new obsession, to, like, separate it out. I figured I would mention that because often when I'm doing, like, headers and, like, I'm trying to think about how to section out pages like this where I'm really throwing a lot of information on it, it's helpful to have that color that's already in both the corners with the scrap paper and on the other side. It helps bring everything together, as I am also now, I think that's me pulling up the green to create that contrast. Well, like, a little bit of contrast, because there was just so much yellow going on, and, like, I love the color yellow. I am a yellow girly through and through, but there does come a time when there is too much yellow. You can kind of see in the corner the Pinterest photo I was referencing for this page, because it's Pinterest, and Pinterest is kind of infamous for being really hard to track down the origins of images. If any of you know, like, the person who originally did this page, feel free to let me know in the comments so I can, like, properly credit them, because I clearly liked it enough to reference it, so. Also right here I'm doing one of my favorite little things to do in journals, which is kind of like doing a second line highlight, but I have two of the Crayola Colors of the World markers where I'm choosing a slightly darker shade and then a slightly lighter shade and alternating between the two. It is my favorite thing to do, and when I get around to doing a flip through or another journal with me, you will see it too many times. I kind of need to chill. Since I'm doing an About Me page, and this is my first, like, proper journaling video on this channel, even though I've been making videos for, like, a little bit on and off now. Hi, I'm Onyx, also known as Corpses Collision, a name I came up with sitting in my AP Psych class in high school. But I have been, like, watching a lot of journaling content, especially as I have been getting into journaling a lot. I had played around with journaling quite a bit because I also do a lot of writing. I wrote a lot of poetry in middle and high school. Some of it very bad, some of it pretty good actually, surprisingly. But I kind of picked it up a lot, mostly towards end of my junior year into my senior year, to cope with everything. As you do when you're like 17 and it feels like the world is falling apart. And I also am an artist, like visually as well, so I found a lot of the collaging aspects I found on especially Pinterest, but also now on YouTube as well, to just be a very fun creative activity I could do that didn't feel as high pressure as the artwork I like to create. Like my primary stuff, like my paintings and my drawings. Collaging and doing a lot of journaling and writing stuff feels like my space to kind of experiment and not worry about it having to look the best. Which, if you're not someone with objectively like too many artistic hobbies, may not make sense, but anyone who also has objectively too many artistic hobbies, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Sometimes I need my like professional cool stuff, and then I need the stuff where I can not quite turn my brain off, but like doesn't feel nearly as high pressure. So journaling both is in writing and is in collaging, and the more creative aspects have really filled that for me. It's 2 years or something like that? I don't quite know. And in that time, I've also started to watch a lot more journaling YouTubers. Particularly, I've always watched bullet journal videos because I know I could never actually keep up with the traditional bullet journal system. I'd have like never use it, honestly. I use my planner specifically more to track things more than anything else, and when I need to like write to-do lists and stuff. And that just sent me down a rabbit hole of finding other people's journaling videos, which I don't even remember their usernames because I don't tend to subscribe to too many channels on YouTube, but like they're constantly in my recommendations, and I love watching them from like random other little small channels that just pop up here and there. It really has brought back that like old YouTube vibe that I have been missing the past couple years, as YouTube tends to start to feel more and more like who can spend the most money on a singular video, as opposed to like a creative hobby where people who may be in a different life would have gone into movies or film can still express that part of themselves. I'm not quite sure how much of that really made sense, but I am a professional yapper, and I am not used to having this much of a runtime for a video to be Sir Yaps a lot. So I'm gonna go back to talking about the actual spread that I'm making, now that I've finished that tangent. You can kind of see, how around the pit crew picture, I'm writing miscellaneous little facts about myself that didn't feel like they fit into the sections on the other side. A lot of them are like my astrology science and stuff, which I find really interesting to look at. Some of them are like random things that just don't fit anywhere. Like one of the ones that I haven't written yet is that I'm a former band kid. I think I wrote that I have weird knees because I do. Just random stuff like that that is kind of fun. I know when I look back on it, it'll give me a good giggle. So, on the right side, which I have already written in the little profile section, I have my name, my age, my MBTI personality type. I don't know, sometimes those weird little, like, I'd put this in my Tumblr bio when I'm 12 things are fun for me to, like, write down, because that's one that could technically change. And then my birthday and my zodiac, which I include in all of these pages, despite the fact that they won't change. Like, I was already born, I can't change my birthday, but, like, it feels like something fun to put in there. And currently being covered by my hand as I'm filling out the left side, I wrote some likes and dislikes. In my likes, I put stuff like poetry and painting and puppets and posters and hair dye and all of the fun things that I like. And on dislikes, I put cold showers, because you will never convince me that a cold shower is worth it unless I'm actively, like, sweating buckets. And, like, sunburn, and bugs, and loud noises, because there are things that I find annoying in this life, and I feel the need to document them, because who knows, maybe in 2 years' time, I'll really like cold showers. I highly doubt it, but it is technically possible. I've also started now writing alongside some of my favorites and stuff, because that truly is the stuff that tends to change the most in between these. In my last journal, because that I started May of 2024, I think. I listed off some of my favorites, and there's some of them where, like, I fully forgot that was, like, a phase in my life. I forget what it was, but it was just whatever music artist I was obsessed with that I'm like, oh, I don't listen to them at all anymore. I'm gonna just, like, shush until we get to, like, the overview of stuff now, because I have fully run out of things to say. Now we're into the overview kind of section, where I just wanted to show everything, including, like, stuff I went back and did to, like, the nameplate page, where I added some little things along with a selfie of myself, and where I kept the basic information about the journal. This was pretty fun. Starting a new journal is always, like, it's not the best part. The best part is the feeling when you finish a journal. But starting one is also very fun. Thank you for coming along with me as I start this and listening to me yap. If you enjoyed this, do the thing, hit the like button. You can subscribe if you want to see more journaling content. Yeah.